All right, Chad, you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
You sure? You're a little quiet today.
Am I?
Yeah.
Am I quiet?
I feel low energy today.
I feel low energy?
Mm-hmm.
I had an energy drink this morning.
Weird.
I don't feel like I feel quiet.
You're not as jazzed as you were yesterday. Gotta get pumped up, my friend.
Pumped up.
This is the first day of the rest of your life.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, I guess.
No? You don't think so?
The first day of the rest of your life is like... I don't get it. It kind of seems cliche.
It's not. It's actually really deep. It's just misconstrued.
I think most cliches are really deep. It just... You hear them so many times it like loses its meaning. In fact, a lot of times when So I've been making a list of things I learned in 2020.
Yeah?
It's like 10 or 12 things long.
Cool.
And most of it is like, you say it, and on face value it sounds pretty cliche. But for me, it's developed a lot of meaning.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh, this is a good... It's like a list of things I want to like focus on this year.
All right.
Yeah, you want to go over that?
Yeah, we'll just chat for a few minutes before we get into it. Let's get the vibe going.
All right. Things I've learned in 2020. There's 11 things.
So not even one per month? Dang.
No, I gotta find one more.
I'm judging you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
First thing, wisdom is useless without application.
Yeah, that's fair.
So for me, it's like this is all wisdom I've learned last year, but a lot of it is not stuff that I apply to my life super well. So this year, it's like taking this list and trying to apply all of these things to my life as well as I can.
Yeah, Alan Watts has an expression in one of his speeches or lectures, I guess technically. He talks about people who think too much and all they have to think about is their own thoughts because they never actually take into action what they're thinking about. So it's just a revolving loop of thought but no action. And when you only think but you don't do, all you have to do is think. And you never do anything. So it's like unapplied knowledge.
So yeah, number one, wisdom is useless without application. Number two, integrity and self-discipline are prerequisites for abundance in your life.
Okay.
So if you want to cultivate abundance, which I do, then self-discipline and integrity are prerequisites for that. And abundance is more of a global thing. It's not just about money. Like obviously finances are a big part of that, but it's also about like cultivating like good relationships in your life and
Sounds like security, not abundance.
yeah, security plays a part.
Because in my mind, abundance is you have something good and you want a lot of it. You like continuously develop the good bits that you already have. Because if you have something good, that's one thing. But having an abundance of something good is you have like too much of it. Not like in a bad sense, but you have more than you need an abundance of.
I think you and I think about abundance in different ways. Because to me, it's not an abundance of something. It's abundance... I've said that word too many times and it sounds weird now.
No, another word.
What?
Bowl. Say bowl.
Bowl.
Say bowl about 12 times and then it'll start tripping you out.
Yeah, I did that like 6 months ago.
Bowl.
And now whenever I say the word bowl, it always sounds weird.
Bowl.
Bowl. Yeah, so for me, abundance is just like extra. And it's not like extra like too much. It's extra... It's basically freedom when it comes right down to it. Because it's like, if you are really, really healthy, then you're like physically free. Because, you can... If you need to run a mile, you can do that for some reason. With like finances, it's like if you're financially abundant, it means you live well below your means. And it's like there's a huge amount of freedom with that because it's like, oh, like we were talking about, do I want to buy a Jeep? It's like, I could if I want to. And it's like, I'm not going to, but there's the freedom knowing that I could do that. It's like, that's cool. Yeah. I really like that.
You just have to have that discipline to not go ahead and buy it just because you can.
Yeah. Integrity and self-discipline are prerequisites for abundance in your life.
How would you apply that on a daily?
So for me, on a daily basis, what that looks like is trying to eat healthier and trying to meal prep so I don't eat out as much. And that's a health and a financial aspect of it.
Like pizza being the perfect food?
Yeah. Pizza being the forever food. Yeah. Because I feel better when I eat better. And then, like, I probably have about 40 pounds to lose, 30, 40 pounds to get, like, in a good range. I don't work out as much as I should. I went to the gym, like, 8 months ago. It was all right.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I bought a gym membership when I moved into this house, and I've gone maybe 12 times, and that was 18 months ago. So not great.
Yeah, we're about the same in that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so abundance, it's like financial abundance, it's health abundance, and there's a lot of freedom with that. Yeah, the main reason I want massive financial abundance is because it's not because I want to buy nice things, it's just complete freedom. Like you could do, I mean, not anything, but as far as I'm concerned, you can do anything if you have enough money. And
yeah, you can definitely, you're open to any opportunity you want to pursue. You're not stuck somewhere. Food for thought for you too. If you find a relationship and settle in with a person, that would also slow down your ability to be flexible. So there's some other things to consider there. But yeah, financial abundance is really important. Absolutely.
Yeah. So next one on the list, sharing food is sacred.
Yeah.
We talked about that, right?
Yeah. I don't know if we recorded it, but we definitely spoke about it. You and
I think it was in the 11-hour Drunken Archive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right.
to me, sharing food is sacred because, like in modern American culture, I think it's something that we've kind of lost culturally. Like we have, groceries. There's 2 or 3 dozen grocery stores where we live. And then if there's no grocery stores, there's fast food places on, most streets. And even if there's no fast food places, there's definitely a gas station.
Yeah.
And you walk into a gas station, it's literally mostly food. That's everything that's inside the gas station, like food and water and drinks and stuff. And so food is so like ubiquitous where we're at because we live in a first world country that I think it's something that we've kind of forgotten. But if you go back, 5 or 10,000 years to the Neolithic people, as I love talking about, hunter-gatherers, it wasn't really like that. Like food had like real value. Like you needed that to live. And it's not for me personally, I've never had a day in my life where I didn't know where my next meal was coming from.
Yeah.
And that was a daily reality for them. I think people, they kind of glamorize the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Like, oh yeah, it was just so great. We lived off the land and, our food was, healthier and it was all organic. And it's like, yeah, that's true sometimes.
But your meal might be 5 raspberries and a squirrel.
Yeah,
like 12 of you.
Yeah, they had famines back then.
Yeah.
They had like natural disasters. They had ecological disasters. They had winters like every year.
Yeah, we go through the seasons and we just hate winter because it's cold. But not even that long ago, even in this country, winters meant you hunker down for 3 or 4 months and hope you had enough stored up.
With this person, you're like, okay, we're both going to go out into the world. I'm going to go hunting, you're going to go foraging, and we're going to both try, strive for greatness and try and get food. And we're going to come back, and if one of us is successful, then at least we'll both survive. And if we both fail, then at least we fail together, and we'll starve together. And it's like, it like binds your fate almost,
That's a good way to look at it.
It's like saying, your present self is so important to me that I'm willing to risk my future self to keep you alive. And it's like one of the most fundamental symbolic acts you can do, I think, is sharing food with someone.
So how does it apply a family dinner?
How does it apply?
Yeah, like the importance of it in a more modern sense.
For me, a lot of it is just like realizing the meaning of sharing food with someone. Like I'll match with a girl on Hinge. I'll be like, oh, do you want to get dinner? And it's like sharing food. It's like the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of times people don't even realize like what that is. But for me, it's like deeply meaningful.
Do you find value in having, like, when you are married with children, you find value in like having a dinner table that you eat at every night?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's this one culture in Asia. I don't remember which one it is. It's probably multiple ones, but they had a missionary when I was growing up, and they came and talked to us at school. And one of the things that they did that was different culturally from us was like the mom or the dad would like take some of the rice and they'd like break it off and then give 2 servings to the older brother. And the older brother, it was his responsibility to break it in half and give half of his food to his younger brother. And so it was like a hierarchy going down where it's like, the parents take care of the eldest and the eldest make sure their youngest are taken care of. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Because you start doing that with kids super young and it trains them. It's like, oh yeah, like this is my brother. And it's like, I'm giving him food.
Well, they do say, there's an expression, they say it takes a village to raise a child. And community is something that we lack, at least in our country and in our state for sure. So It is. There's words to be said about that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if you look at like ancient texts and stuff, like if you look at like the story of Adam and Eve, like Eve shared the fruit with Adam, and it like bound their fate together before the fall.
Yeah.
And then like the with Jesus, like the one of the last things he did was the Last Supper, and that like bound the disciples' fate together as like disciples.
Yeah, and then the expression breaking bread is always kind of like an offering to, not peace, but like let's go break bread and talk about something we need to talk about. It's kind of like a peace offering as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next on the list?
Sharing food is sacred. After that, we talked about this yesterday. Cultivate tranquility and meaning instead of pursuing happiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty straightforward after what we talked about yesterday. Like happiness is fleeting and it's fragile and it's not guaranteed. But if you cultivate meaning and tranquility, then for me, that's like the better way to live.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were a yogi, you would say happiness is only a byproduct of expectation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
so
if you don't expect things, you can't be disappointed, and therefore you won't lose happiness.
yeah. So like practically what that looks like for me is like tranquility is like cultivating like living below my means financially and trying to eat healthy and stuff like that. And then like getting enough sleep. And then meaning is about cultivating like rich relationships with the people around me. And so like my parents, it's like I'm very intentional about spending time with them. Like I'll call them on the phone or I'll just go over and visit and we'll end up just talking for a few hours. And how that the dichotomy there with happiness is like I'm cultivating meaning now and eventually my parents are going to die.
Yeah.
And so when my parents die, like that happiness goes right out the window. Like it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
But the fact that I've cultivated this meaningful relationship the last 10, 20 years before they die makes it worthwhile, I think. Mm-hmm. So happiness is like it comes and goes.
Yeah, and there's, especially when people pass away, there's two ways to look at it, and two ways people commonly look at it. It's they look back at the times they had and mourn what they won't have anymore, and then there's people that look back at the times that they never had and mourn that loss of opportunity. Mm-hmm. So your way is definitely probably the best way. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, next on the list, meaningful chaos born out of responsibility is worth contending with.
Care to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I've been on Hinge looking for girls. Mm-hmm. I matched with this one girl, and like what I was looking for generally is someone who lives their life roughly according to the same values as I do. So they cultivate a lot of tranquility in their life.
Okay.
I matched with one girl. We went on a couple dates, and she's a midwife. And so what that looks like is you're literally on call 24/7. Mm-hmm. Like Christmas dinner. Like she made it pretty clear before we went out. She's like, look,
I might not be able to show up.
No, yeah, like I'm not a flaky person, but you might get a text where I have to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I get that. And now we actually are still friends after that, and it's like that's like characterizes our relationship where it's like she's not as accessible, I guess, because she gets pulled away because of work and she's also in school. But so there's not a lot of tranquility in her life.
Gotcha.
Or like there is, but it's like not as much as mine. Yeah. Like tranquility is something I'm like firmly rooted in, and for her, tranquility is something that like she takes when she can get. And so, but because of that, it's like I found that really admirable though, because being a midwife is like there's not a lot of tranquility there. It's a lot of chaos because you're always on call.
Yeah.
But it's chaos born out of responsibility. Okay. And that's really meaningful, and that's worth contending with.
How would you apply that to your life? Is your life currently chaotic enough to feel like you're being responsible? That's not a good way to put it. But yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like
is this an aspiration, or is this something you're actively working, like you're actively doing?
Yeah. So tranquility and chaos are like opposites for me. Mm-hmm. So the past year, I've tried to eliminate as much chaos as possible. Mm-hmm. To a certain extent, because chaos, like meaningful chaos and chaos born out of responsibility, is worth contending with. So for me, like getting a new job was chaos.
Yeah.
But that's worth contending with because there's value and opportunities on the other end of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So understanding, for me, like this point was basically understanding that there's a difference between just pointless chaos and meaningful chaos.
Okay.
And meaningful chaos that's worth leaning into.
Cool.
So point after that, do not add unnecessary chaos to the world.
Okay.
So for me, that looks like always speaking the truth. It looks like if someone cuts me off, I don't flip them off. I don't engage in like road rage or anything like that. If someone pisses me off, I don't like take revenge or anything like that. Every action I take, I try to minimize the amount of meaningless chaos in the world.
It's a very stoic philosophy right there, actually.
Really?
Yeah, stoicism is a lot of self-reliance on mood regulation. So a true stoic would say nothing in the world can affect me but myself. So that means even if like you were in a serious car accident, you're physically hurt, but you don't have to be mentally afraid or mentally hurt or frustrated or upset, because you learn to regulate those emotions. Like, this person didn't crash your car and like ruin your life. It's just something that happened, and your life's not actually ruined because you get to choose that feeling. It's not ruined if you don't feel it is. You choose that. So it's like self-regulating your mood, which is kind of what you're talking about. Not letting outside influences infect your internal self. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's not quite cut and dry like that, because if someone cuts me off, it's not like it doesn't annoy me, but that's like the ideal.
Well, Stoics don't say that. The Stoics are non-emotionless. They just have elite control over their emotions, so they're still going to feel frustrated if they're prone to anger and violence. They're still going to have that Hulk-like rage simmer in there, but you get to be Bannon and suppress it. Like you have to like master control of your emotions. Kind of what a Stoic tries to do and aspires to do, which no one can ever really do fully. But it's your first thought is this useful, and why am I feeling this way? Is it from them, or is it like needed? And then you deduce it and simmer it back down. So it sounds a lot like what you're talking about now. Yeah,
that's good. I like that. Next one, your beliefs are what you act out, not what you say they are.
Yeah, pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it's hard to expound on that. Like, I think we talked about in one of the later episodes. I'm not going to go over that. Next one, pay attention, or another way of thinking it is make friends with what you don't know.
Cool. Being open.
Yeah, it's being open. For me, it's a lot of skepticism about my own beliefs and understanding that like the world is a complicated place and I don't know how most of it works. So being open to being wrong, and having like none of my beliefs are really beyond question. And then make friends with what you don't know. It's about like not closing your eyes to uncomfortable truths. So I went through most of my life not doing this, and I didn't really know what I was doing in life, but I would have to tell myself a story that basically justified what I was doing. So I graduated high school and was completely thoughtless about what career I wanted.
Yeah.
I was like, what makes the most money? I'm like, doctors. Doctors probably make the most money. Okay, so I'll become a doctor. So I was a pre-med major for 3 semesters. And I hated it. I didn't get good grades. I got like mostly C's. So it's like, who knows if I would have even made it into medical school. But as long as I wasn't studying like I should have, because I wasn't self-disciplined when I was 18.
Yeah.
And so, but as long as I had that story, it's like, I'm
pre-med.
I'm pre-med. I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Then it's like my life goal, my plan was set out, and eventually, after 3 semesters, reality intervened, and all of a sudden I could no longer keep telling telling myself this story, because it was obvious like it wasn't going to happen. So I switched to psychology. It was like, I'll be a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Like, they make almost as much. And then I did that for a semester and kind of hated it. So I just bounced around majors for a while. And then eventually I ended up in communication, which is a pretty useless degree, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So I'm like, I'll go into marketing or something. And so I graduated, and I applied for some jobs and didn't really get any callbacks. So I'm like, I'll just start my own thing. And I started a photography business, and then there was like a marketing aspect of it where I do like videos for small businesses. And I was okay. I wasn't anywhere like near a professional level, and I was making like, amateur wages or whatever.
Yeah.
But as long as I could tell myself, I'm building a business as a photographer, and I didn't look at the fact that like I wasn't really growing, it wasn't really sustainable long term, and it wasn't really my passion. You know, as long as I didn't think about that, it's like, oh, I have my story that I'm telling myself, and that makes me feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I did IT school for a year because I wanted to I want to go into cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is still super interesting to me. I've read books about hacker stories and stuff. I listen to Darknet Diaries. It's just a bunch of like stories about like hackers in the dark web and state-sponsored spying and stuff like that. Super interesting. So I was like, oh, I want to do this. It's super cool. And then I got into it, and I didn't enjoy like the day-to-day details of what I was doing. Like, it was really technical. It's like you know, a kid who grows up and he wants to be a Navy SEAL, and so his whole life he's like, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. And then like day one of like boot camp or buds or whatever they go through, they get dropped into the ocean. They realize they hate being in the water.
Yeah,
that's what it was like for me. And like I'm still like really into like hacker stories and like the culture and stuff like that. But it's not like, it's a hobby for me. It's not like a good career move.
Yeah. You know I'm going to ask follow-up questions, right?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll give you my impression of what you just told me, and it's going to be a little harsh, but it sounds like you just don't believe in yourself. You start something you're interested in, and you just kind of feel like you can't do it, or it's not good enough, and then you peter out. It sounds like you did exactly what you said you were doing, where you told a story hoping you would believe it, which that's absolutely true, but where are you now with all that? You know, are you still telling yourself stories, hoping that they're true, or you know, where are you at with yourself?
No, I think
what are you actually passionate about? Because use that word, passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm passionate about the podcast. This is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pest control pays the bills in the meantime.
Yeah.
So if I can make this work full time, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's not a story I'm telling myself now. Now this is something I actually believe in myself.
Outside of the podcast, what would it be? Or is this it?
The story thing was mostly like a career-centric thing.
Do you have to be passionate about something to make a career of it?
No, I'm making a career out of pest control. That's like my plan B.
Mm-hmm. You like start your own company and move forward with that?
Oh, no, I don't want to start my own company in pest control. If I start my own company in something, it's going to have to be something I'm really passionate about. Because,
well, what's the difference in your mind between a job and a career?
A career is something that can support a family long term, and a job doesn't do that.
Plenty of people survive on jobs.
Careers have health insurance, jobs don't.
Okay. I always picture it as jobs pay the bills and careers are like what you were putting your time and investment into. That's the passion. That's the way I always viewed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad's worked at a lumber mill his entire life, 50 odd years. That's his job and his career.
No?
He's a semi-pro fisherman. That's his career. He spent his whole life in the pro circuit until he got too old to actually do it. Now he just does it on the local fishing tournament. But his career as a fisherman has been successful. He's won a lot of awards, but he's always had his job that paid the bills.
Yeah, I think like abundance. When you say career and I say career, we mean two different things. Because for me, a career is just something. It's something that allows you to live and prosper, and it's something that like it's a skill set that you develop over a long period of time that allows you to prosper. Basically,
Okay.
Passion doesn't necessarily come into it. It's great if it does.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily like a prerequisite for that.
It's interesting that you felt photography wasn't something that could be sustainable because there's plenty of people who do a good job with that.
Oh yeah, the photography thing. The problem was I started photography as a hobby and I really, really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. The problem was what was lucrative wasn't my passion, and what I was passionate about wasn't lucrative. Like senior photos and like very staged stuff. It was like, it's fine. I can do it. Yeah. It's not really what makes me come alive. For me, a huge part of the photography thing, the first 4 years was all just trying things to see if they worked. Because it's a digital camera, you can take as many photos as you want.
Yeah.
And so that learning by making mistakes and learning by error and just trying something, see if it works.
Yeah.
That's what made me come alive. Because I try something and not know if it's going to work or not know how it was going to turn out. And maybe it didn't turn out, or maybe it turned out really different than I thought, and it was really cool and really interesting.
Yeah.
And that process of discovery was what I really, really enjoyed. And when you do senior photos, like, they want a product. They don't want, like, a process of discovery where there's lots of mistakes and it's really messy, and most of what you do doesn't turn out. It's like they want a product, which is fair. I understand it, but it's, you know.
Yeah. So apply that though. Like, could you theoretically have paid the bills by just taking the senior photos while on the side developing a creative portfolio that someone hasn't quite figured out yet? Like other people aren't quite doing it yet because it's new. And
The thing with photography, it was like a strategic decision of why I walked away. Because first of all, I wasn't enjoying what made me money.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big part of it. Mm-hmm. And then the catalyst probably, there was a couple things. First of all, I needed to make an investment into probably about $5,000 or $6,000 into new equipment if I was going to take it to the next level. Because basically I got to this fork in the road where like my equipment was old. I needed to invest in new equipment.
I'm just trying to equate it to like your life now. I mean, if you look back at what you've done and then your feelings about it then, and you go to where you're at now, it's, you know, the lessons are still there and they're not all that different. So like you really enjoy the podcasts, but it's not lucrative. So when it becomes a job, is it something you don't enjoy anymore because now it's a job? You know, like if you have an opportunity to make money while podcasting, but it won't be quite as fun, maybe you have to plug in a sponsor here or there.
Plugging in a sponsor won't affect. I feel like it's apples and oranges because a podcast you can spread really wide, and a photography it's like you got one customer at a time generally. And the thing with photography is like the wages have been stagnant since the 90s because the cost of technology drops, so amateurs like me would flood the market, and so even the professional photographers, like they're not making the money that they did in the mid 90s. And so for me it was like this isn't a good long-term solution.
Unless you're innovative, like maybe when you were trying those new photos and those new techniques and you're discovering things.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who would. For me, it wasn't like it didn't really matter how cool my photos were because some of my photos were really, really amazing. Like I'm really proud of the stuff I did, but trying to fit that into like a free market is like, oh, do you want to pay money to look at this photo? It's like there's like a disconnect between my passion, even if it's really cool, and the financial viability with it. Cool. And to me, a podcast isn't really like that. Like if we started plugging sponsors at some point, because you know we have enough listeners where that's viable, then it's like it doesn't fundamentally change the way what we're doing.
Okay, fair enough. Next question, good sir.
Mm-hmm. Oh, next thing.
Yeah.
You don't have any more follow-up questions you're gonna
berate me with? No. I'm just picking you apart a little bit.
All right. Last thing I learned last year. Remember, you will die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more, to me, it's a little more poignant way of the whole, like, seize the day, carpe diem or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is really bland and shitty. But to me, it's like, this actually, there's truth in it, there's meaning into it. And so for me, it's about leaning into that and really understanding what that means. So for me, it's about not wasting days. Like, if you have a day where you sit around all day and you need the rest, that's okay. If you do that 2 days in a row, then it's like you should do something.
Yeah, I agree. And it's surprisingly hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you obviously I like philosophy, and so Alan Watts and Marcus Aurelius, different types of philosophers, but they have some very similar concepts. And in Meditations, which is Aurelius's journal, he has a brief description about time and man and how you don't really have the future and you don't really have the past. Those don't belong to you. You only have the present moment. This second right now and this second right now, that's yours to own, but the second that I just talked about is gone. And the second forward isn't mine yet. You don't own it. You can position yourself to be successful, but you have no control whether or not it actually happens. You can do the best you can to make sure it happens, but there's always something that can happen that'll interrupt it. So all you have is right now. So it's making the most of the moments that you can to benefit yourself in a way that can also hopefully benefit someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it kind of goes parallel to what Alan Watts says about people who think about them, people who think all day long have nothing to think about but their own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all great, but you're not taking action. So where's the benefit of that, right? So yeah, remember you'll die one day.
Yeah.
So make today the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even making today the best. It's make right now the best.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not enjoying something, stop. Do you think that makes you a failure? Or I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
So like your business that you talked about starting with photography and having it, you just didn't enjoy it and you didn't think it was lucrative. Well, it didn't matter if it was or was not going to be lucrative. The fact was you didn't enjoy it anymore, so stop. It's not worth the time.
Yeah. Well, it was weird too because I really enjoyed the hobby, and then once I started the business, the hobby aspect of it kind of went away because I associated it with work, and so I stopped doing photography after that.
Yeah,
which really sucked.
So yeah, from me personally, I don't think that having something you enjoy becoming work is necessarily an issue. In a perfect world, my work would be exactly what I want it to be. So like, I want to start a garden business where I'm consulting on people's gardens and helping them develop a sustainable, yard where they can eat the stuff that grows there, and that's what I want to do. But I know at one point it's gonna be work. I'm gonna be mowing lawns and trimming hedges and fertilizing stuff and doing calls and fixing people's issues. But like that's gonna be way better than anything else I'd be doing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still what I want to do. I'm not, picking up the trash or killing bugs anymore. I'm doing what I want, even if it's not always fun.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about when people talk about doing what they're passionate about, even that has some downsides to it. Because like for doing the podcast, it's like this is my favorite part about it. Like when we're having a conversation, we're talking, and we have a plan about what we're going to talk about, and then it just goes off the rails. We go in a completely different direction.
We'll get back around to it. It's fine.
Well, it's good and it's organic and it's authentic and it's meaningful. And then I go home and I have to edit it. And editing, I wouldn't say it's tedious, but it's not as it's a different kind of challenge. It's not. I don't want to say drudgery because it's also overstating it, but it's not the part of it that makes me come alive. It's the necessary work to get this on the road. And so a lot of it is like do what's meaningful, not what makes you happy. Yeah, because even if it's work, it's still meaningful work.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
Cool. That was your last one, your last note?
Yeah, that's everything I learned last year. Nothing else. So
my last question to end that little segment is, so how are you going to take that last little note to yourself and apply it to your life this year?
Remember I will die?
Yeah.
I have a whiteboard in my room.
Wait. Why is it got to be a whiteboard?
What?
Why does it got to be a whiteboard?
Why does what have to be
racist?
What?
Racist.
What are you talking about?
It's a whiteboard. No, it's a dry erase board.
Oh, is that the new thing?
I don't know. I'm just setting the tone for the next segment.
Right. I have a dry erase board in my room.
There you go.
And for the last few months, it's had I have a map with the tranquility in the middle, meaning on the outside, and then chaos outside of that, and then wisdom. So I drew that on there. And so every day I wake up and I see that, and that's like inculcating that in my life and making sure that's like the operating system that I run my actions on.
Okay.
So I took that down and I just made this list on my whiteboard. And so like I have the tranquility, meaning chaos thing pretty well down in my life, I think.
Yeah.
So this next year, my goal is to basically instill all of these things in myself. And the very first one is wisdom is useless without application. And then because these things are things I understand, but this isn't something I act out all the time.
Yeah.
Like the main one is integrity and self-discipline are prerequisites for abundance in your life. Like I'm pretty solid with integrity. When it comes to self-discipline, it's like not great.
Probably not. No.
Yeah. So that's.
I think everyone struggles with that, though. To be honest with you, that's probably everyone's worst enemy.
Everyone except Jocko. Like he's the only person I know. Do you know Jocko Willick?
Yeah. No, he still struggles with that. Why? Because he knows he should probably take a break, and he can't do it. Like, is there anything really great about running like 30 miles straight? Does it really help anybody or yourself? Like, he's probably doing some serious damage to his knees. Like, dude, take a nap. Calm down. Enjoy life.
Yeah, Jocko might be a bit on the...
Like, exercise is great, but he's a freak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well... Nevertheless, I have a huge amount of respect for him for the drive that he does and the discipline that he has in his life.
Well, considering he wasn't he like really like overweight and stuff, and he just kind of one day decided he was. I think that was the story he at least had told on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure the story.
You're talking about the Navy SEAL?
Jocko.
Yeah, or are you talking about someone else?
Maybe not.
Because I haven't heard the overweight thing.
I need to see his picture really quick. I'm gonna Google it while you continue speaking.
Yeah, so I've been listening to a lot of Jocko.
Okay.
Because he's really intense, and he'll...
Oh, no, I'm thinking of a different guy, but this guy's, he practices stoicism, by the way.
Jocko?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He's actually, he's not like a renowned Stoic or anything like that, but he's recognized as like one of the great modern Stoics. Yeah. So if you actually look at a lot of what he talks about, it might be worth looking into Stoicism if you're actually believing what he's saying, because there's a lot to learn from him.
Yeah, I know a bit about Stoicism.
I had a different guy for whatever reason in my mind, but when I saw him, I understand who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
No, the whole running 30 miles thing, that's a different person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jocko also does that. I don't know if he runs 30 miles.
Well, he's like a SEAL, though, so he has to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he has an amazing amount of discipline, that man. Yeah. So I take that back.
Yeah, so I've been listening to him a lot with podcasts, YouTube lectures. Just I'll watch the same videos over and over again, or not over and over again, but he has a ton of videos, and I'll just re-listen to them.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a good reminder, and like it's weird. I will be not in the mood to. I'll want to grab Jack in the Box on the way home, and a bottle of wine, and then just like drink wine, eat Jack in the Box, and play video games for the night.
It's the fucking weirdest combo, my friend. I'm gonna pair this fine double baconator with a nice Chianti.
No, here's what you do. All right, you get
You dip it? Are you like dunking it or something?
Oh God! Yeah. All right, so you go to Jack in the Box. You get the large Coke, right?
Yeah.
Or you get a combo basically. You get I think it's the number 5. You get the double. Shit, I don't know what it's called. It's basically just a burger, and I get no mustard, and I get extra cheese. So it's still got the ketchup on there, and then the cheese makes it just really gooey, really, really good.
Okay.
It's so good. And then you get the large curly fry and the large Coke, and then if you want, you could have vodka to the Coke and you're or a little Jack, and you're good to go. And it's like that's a perfect. And then you just add video games, and it's like, you know the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, that's pretty much all of them wrapped up in a nice little bow.
Mine's gluttony, absolutely gluttony. Like it's broader than just food for me, because it's also video games. Like binging on video games for 8 hours and doing nothing and just checking out. Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe it is sloth.
Well, and lust is mostly lust is mostly portrayed as of like the flesh, but lust can also be applied to like food and of desire in general. So if you're really craving that alcohol because you're an alcoholic and you need that greasy burger because you're hungover still, that could still be lust too.
Yeah.
I guess pride doesn't fit in there, because if you're doing that to yourself daily, you aren't a proud man. Not to say that you do that daily. I hope you don't.
No.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll have a day off and I'll have a bunch of productive things planned out.
Yeah.
And then I'll wake up and I just am not in the mood. Especially if I did it the night before. So I'll have a bottle of wine and then Jack in the Box or whatever. So I wake up feeling like crap because I'm like a little hungover, and then I've just eaten like tons of greasy, fatty food. I just wake up and lay in bed just on my phone for an hour. And the next thing you know, I'm just like, I'll just play video games for a bit. Just because
it's like 3 p.m. by the time you realize.
No, yeah. I'll look up and it'll be 11:30 and I'm like, I've been doing this, 3 hours. It's like, all right, 12 o'clock I'll stop and I'll be able to have a good 6 hours of productive day. And then I'll look up, it'll be 12:04 and I'm like, I already missed the deadline. I'll do 2 p.m. because I want to finish this part of the game. And then you just next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock and like my back hurts and I still feel like crap because I've just been sitting down all day.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's like I get in this weird headspace where it's the longer you do that, the harder it is to break out because you've already wasted so much time. I feel bad about it. And so instead of actually getting up and engaging with what I'm supposed to do, it's easier just to slip back into video games and distract myself.
Yeah.
And I think the alcohol aspect of it comes in because it's like an extra distraction. Like
it's a numbing agent.
The high octane numbing thing for me is I'll have a video game right here, and on a screen to the left I have a TV show going, and then I'm eating snacks and I'm also drinking. And so it's just I got 4 things I'm distracted on, and I'm on my phone half the time too.
Yeah.
So I have 200% of the things that I need to distract myself from my responsibilities. And so,
why do you do that to yourself, Chad?
It's not something I do often, but it's something I want to do never.
Yeah.
Like,
I can relate to that. That's why I'm going gung ho this year on my stuff.
Yeah, it's not maybe not. I don't want to never do it because when I'm resting, it's like when I work 6 days and there were 10-hour days, maybe I want to spend that Sunday playing 4 hours of video games.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But I don't want it to be. The past year, it's been. I've done that far more days than I should have.
Yeah, like I said, I can relate to that. Last year, especially this past holiday season, like working and having to be shitty and COVID and like come home after working all day and I just want to have a cup of coffee and just play games for a few hours. But I would feel bad about it because there's so much more I should be doing, and I'm almost 30 and I'm still playing video games. I'm like, why do I desire to play this? I still can't answer that question. I still love games. Like I still love them. Like I did play games for 2-3 hours yesterday morning for the first time this month. And that even made me feel bad. While I'm playing them, I feel great. But then when I'm done, I'm like, fuck, I just wasted all that time. And I don't know why I have the desire to, because my life is fine. So it could be like the mental disconnect is necessary once in a while. But still, it's not worth it, even though it's like something I'm craving. It's almost like a drug.
Even if it's only one time that month, you still feel bad?
Yeah. Yesterday, there was so much more I could have done. I have some personal deadlines with my writing. I have 2 stories that I need to finish the first chapter by the end of tonight, which they're almost there. I mean, I still have 6 hours of work or so left to do. So I probably won't quite make the deadline, but I'll finish by tomorrow night. But that's the difference. If I went to spend those 3 hours yesterday doing that, I would have had most of it done already. And so, like, is it really that damaging? No. But doing that, like, every week, yeah. Like, 3 hours a week even, 12 hours a month, you know, like, do the math on that. Like, it's a lot of hours.
That's only like 4 full days of the year.
Yeah, but 4 full days of writing of the year is...
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, I've done more than I've been doing in the past, but that's how much I would love to have that much more done, you know, like.
So let me ask you, what does rest look like for you?
Rest for me is, I don't know, I'm still defining that actually. I have been posturing myself for rest to be when I'm flexing my creativity.
Say that again?
Rest for me, I've been posturing myself to think of rest for me as like flexing my creativity.
You flex your creativity and that's what rest is?
Yes.
Okay, like abundance and like the other word,
You
career.
can translate it to however you want in Chad speak, but I used to think rest was a cup of coffee or like a few beers, playing a game, checking out. I'd spend 8 to 10 hours a day working for someone else, doing what they need to do. I spend 3 hours, that's in the morning and at night, like combined, like doing breakfast and doing the dishes. Another hour, like cleaning up the house. And then the last couple of hours I have of my day, I thought rest was checking out. And then at the end of the week, I realized I have nothing for myself. I've given all of my productive self to everyone else. And then I robbed myself of a couple hours every night doing something that's not going to do anything for me. Like, checking out on the game is great. My little gamer score is awesome on my Xbox. I've had it for 10 years. I'm like, it's not gonna, like, who cares? Like, I still desired that though because I've done it for so long. It's hard to break, but I've been changing my routines drastically to break the bad habits, and they're mostly gone. There's still some lingering desire, but now what I find enjoyable when I have 2 hours in the morning, a few hours at night, is I sit down with a cup of coffee and I write like a little limerick, like the one that you read on the table. It's not great, but if I do that every night for an entire year, out of the 365 limericks I've written, there's bound to be at least 2 or 3 good ones, and that's the start of my portfolio. I do that for the next couple of years, and now I actually have something to show for my time. Whereas the past few years, I have an account on Xbox Live with a high gamer score, and all the friends I used to play with, they're gonna stop playing, they forgot who I was. Like, that's not productive, not useful, and I actually regret the time I've spent. I don't regret the time I spent writing, though, or drawing, or painting, or cultivating a garden, or dreaming about that, or learning about plants, and so I've postured myself to think my time to rest is actually like when I have my time to myself to develop myself. And it's just a change in mindset. Yeah, this is something I think we're talking about here in a bit anyway. But it's my book. It's my book that I'm writing this year.
You want to just go into that?
If you want to,
yeah, let's go into
talking about that. I mean, yeah, sure.
Well, real quick, I have a thought on rest.
Okay.
For me, the way I look at rest is like I have 6 to, we'll say 4 to 8 hours of creative capacity per day, depending on how rigorous that creative capacity is. If it's learning how to code, I got 3 hours max.
Yeah.
if it's, editing a podcast, I could crank that out for about 7-8 hours before I burn out.
Yeah.
So for me, what rest looks like is after or in between that 8-hour period.
Yeah. Sorry, heating up a little bit. Okay, after that 8-hour period.
Yeah, so for me, rest is in between when I need a break, in between, learning Python, or if I edit for 3 hours, I need a break.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do something for half an hour. That's rest for me. So what do you do for if you need a break or something?
Well, that's the point. Is in the entirety of January, I changed my sleeping pattern to disrupt my life intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
It caused me to have these slumps in the day because I was depriving myself of sleep, and so then, like, the time of day that I was tired was not the 2 p.m. It was actually the 9 a.m. because I was up at 12:30 to 1 a.m. So I changed my rhythm a little bit to be tired a little earlier in the day. So rest for me in the morning is having coffee and writing limericks, writing dreams. I don't need to turn off anymore because I took 30 days of harsh, I'm so it's hard to describe. So let me backtrack really quick. The premise of my book that I'm writing this year is about self-programming. I have a year to fuck with myself in every way that I can think of that I think will be positive, and I'm a contrarian, so I try to think about what normal people, or quote unquote normal people, or average folks, or what people are doing in general, and I think about the opposite of that and whether it's good or bad or applicable. So most people sleep 8 hours. They go to bed anywhere from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Wake up anywhere from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. typically, right? And get, like, the whole 8 hours of sleep, working 9 to 5, and that's like the normal average way of life. So then I started thinking, well, what if I didn't need a full 8 hours of sleep? Do I actually need a full 8 hours of sleep? Probably not. I bet you I can get away with half that. And I did it for a month. Well, except for last week's the dog. But anyway.
You got a puppy.
And it turns out I really didn't need 8 hours of sleep. I barely needed 4.5. I barely needed 3.5. As long as the sleep I got was good and I slept during the most important time of the day. So I slept like 9 to 12:30. And then I took a few 20-minute naps after, like, my activity. So technically, you're speaking, my rest was those 20-minute naps, because I would write for 2 hours, and then I'd do a 20-minute, like, meditation, and then I'd take a nap, and then I'd wake up, and I'd have a healthy snack, like a Greek yogurt, a handful of fruit, a banana, something healthy with some green tea. So I did that all last month, and then going into, or all of this current month, it's the last day of the month, so I'm kind of just chilling. Going into February, I'm lightening up on the sleep pattern because it's not important that I mess with sleeping. Now I've learned to rest. So because I've been deprived of sleep, even though physically I felt the effects, mentally I was fine. So, like, physically I was still tired and exhausted. I didn't recover really well. I was a little sluggish, but mentally I could still, like, think and be creative and operate like a normal human being. So going into this next month, sleeping is not the important part. Breaking the previous sleeping pattern was. So going this next month, it's mental and physical health and wellness. So I'm working out 2.5 hours a day, hour in the morning, half hour meditation afternoon, hour at night, like lifting, 6 days a week.
Wow.
And like my diet's going to be pretty much the same set thing every day. It's going to be really standardized. I'm including a couple of herbal supplements I'm experimenting with, and it's about, the idea is the gut biome. It's about fixing my gut biome and helping my body cleanse of all this shit, food and, like, the caffeine and the sugars, and, like, fixing that. And then I'll see how I feel in the end of February and then at the end of March. And then going into March, I'll combine the sleep pattern and the diet and exercise routine into one. And at the end of March and into April, so the end of quarter one, 2021, I'll theoretically have programmed myself without having to think about it anymore, because I've done it 30 days straight, regimented. I'll have basically what I would consider a superb sleep pattern with a diet and exercise routine, like, technically before a normal person's day starts. So I'm already 100% more productive and effective than I have been the past 27 years of my life. That makes sense. And it's about self-programming. So there's a theory that if you do anything consistent for 2 weeks, it becomes a habit, and you don't have to think about it anymore. So knowing that, like, my past routine for the past 10 years is I wake up, my first 2 hours I drink 2 cups of coffee and I play my video game 2 hours straight. That was my habit. All I did was I cut out the coffee and made it green tea, and instead of playing video games, I wrote. And so now instead of needing to relax and check out with video games, my relax and checking out is I just write. I let my hand go. I get good stuff, bad stuff, no stuff sometimes. Sometimes I'm just doodling, but it's like training my mind to not even think about it. I just go. So that limerick that you read out there, not great, but entertaining enough. You're like, there's something. I don't know what it is. It's kind of weird, but like
I liked it.
It like rhymed. It was a good format. It's like that was written at 2:30 a.m. yesterday morning or day before yesterday. Like took me 20 minutes just to write a little limerick. That's more than I was doing 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago. So that's the idea. And then because I want to write, whether I want to be successful or not, that's going to come down to how well I write. But I'm going to write books. I'm going to write at least one book every year as far as I can live and make it happen. So 2022 next year is going to be about 2021, quitting my job, living the life that I think I would want to live and actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And took some meditative work because like I don't desire a big house and fancy car like more like a lot of people want things. All I wanted was my time. And my wife said, take a year. Because the way that we looked at it, we changed our view on it. Like my menial income at our job, I was making like $35K a year. So the way that we decided to look at it is, why don't you invest $35,000 in yourself this year? So she says we can hunker down a little bit, and her income pays for what we have because I don't have a lot of stuff. I have a car payment and one credit card. Like I didn't rack up a bunch of issues. I didn't really go to school. I don't have a lot of debt. So my lifestyle has worked pretty well to posture myself for this position, but that's what it's about. It's if you had a year to do anything you wanted to do and live the life you wanted to do, how would you do it? And for me, it was what I needed was the time and energy. So I quit my job. Now it's my job to find the motivation, find the energy, and make sure I can keep doing it. And I'm responsible to her, not myself. So because my wife is supporting me and I'm the house husband, I asked her, what do you need from me? And I'll work myself around it. So, she needs the typical clean house. Let's cook me dinner and breakfast, take care of the dogs, like just the basic stuff. And I do that. I get my morning done. I get about almost 8 hours of work. And then from 8 a.m. till about 10 a.m. when she's like waking up, I make her breakfast, clean the house, take care of the dogs. I take my nap. And then from like 12:30 to roughly 3 o'clock while she's away and the dogs are hanging out, I'm back at work. I'm like doing a lot, but I'm still being super productive. So rest for me is I don't need rest the way you need rest, I guess. Like you're committing 8 to 10 hours to someone else, and then you have to come home and like forget about that and check back into your own life for a while. My rest is writing, and is drawing, and is creating. That is my rest, because I've spent the last since I was 16. Since I was 16, I've worked more than one job. I put in some time, so I'm resting now for this whole year, if that makes sense. But it's still work. It's just it's hard to describe to someone who's not doing it. Yeah. So that's the way I looked at it. If I could do anything in a year, what would it be? I started a manuscript. I have an idea for a new one, and on top of that, I want to write kind of like a journal, then turn it into a novel, which is what I just described. So my year, I'm going to finish my manuscript. I'm going to start that new one, and I'm going to position myself for next year and the year after that I have work already done so that I can continue writing.
That's good.
It sounds like a lot, but if life is a pizza, because pizza is the perfect food group, right? You have the whole pizza. You get like a double XL pizza, like one of the big ass ones. You're like, I'm gonna eat this whole thing. You're like, wow, that's a lot of food. That's a lot to chew on, right? Well, you cut it into slices. You get 12 slices on a pizza, a large pizza. I don't think of those as months. Slices are big, even on extra large or double XL or one of the party ones. It's still a big slice. But you don't live a whole month at once. You live one moment at a time. It's not even one day at a time. Like the bite is the day and the chewing is the moment, And so you get bite, chew on it. And that's how I'm living. I'm living every life while I'm chewing. Every day is a bite. Every month's a slice. The whole year is the whole pie. And then you might have a topping on there that you didn't ask for. That's the situations that arise. Like she brought home a puppy last week, and I'm babysitting a puppy until it's potty trained. So I can't do my sleep pattern very well, but I can work around it the best of my ability. So it's kind of thinking that way. changing perspective. And it's also taking advantage of support systems too. You know, if you have someone who's willing to help you, don't be proud. Take the help. You need it, you know? So it's my best advice to you. That's why I'm like, you want to do a podcast? All right, let's do it. Come over after work, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Just drive over here, record something. You got an idea just for a sound bite? Come over. Take advantage of it, because that's how you get forward with your goals. You know? That's what I want to do. I want to inspire people. Yeah. But I don't want to just be one of these kids that you see now that talk about all their success and they're just posturing themselves and renting nice cars so they can put on their videos. No, I'm actually doing it like for a year, like living it hard. And I'm not a Jocko Willis where I like went to the Marines and that's why I'm stoic. No, like I'm an average Joe Schmo, and I quit my job, decided I wasn't going to spend any money that I wasn't allowed to, and I meditate and I work on health and wellness, and I actually do what I say I'm going to do and set my goals. Like I'm doing a chapter per book per month, broken it down to 500 words per day. I figured I can do about 500 words in 2 hours. That's not very good because 500 words is roughly a page and a half Microsoft Word. Takes me 2 hours to do that. But in 3 months from now, I bet you I can do that in 20 minutes. So you just work your way up. So compound interest on myself, baby.
That's great.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot, but that's why I break it down into 2-hour chunks, 500 words, you know, one bite at a time.
Yeah. I think that's one thing I really value about financial abundance is because you said something earlier about time.
Yeah.
And how like that's something you value over like trinkets and stuff. And that's basically the exact same way I am.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty jealous that you get to take a year off and just like just invest all that in yourself. And just
I bet you, if you posture yourself, you could do the same thing. You talk to your roommate and you're like, you're gonna be here through next year, and he says, yeah, probably. Well, your rent's not that much. You do have a car payment, you know.
I don't have a car payment.
You don't have a car payment?
I just paid it off.
See? So you have a cell phone, maybe a credit card bill. Let me figure out how much your rent's going to be for the whole year. Budget your food. You know, figure out what equipment you need beforehand. Because November, December of last year, before I quit, I bought what I thought I would need to like start my routine. So like I bought this really nice iPad because that's what I'm writing on. I don't want to put a bunch of money into a computer quite yet because I have a tendency to play computer games. So I'm like, I can't get a computer. I might get sucked into that. I'll buy an iPad.
Well, the Mac doesn't have good computer games.
I don't know. I'll find a way. See, computer, like, for me, gaming is a compulsion. It's not healthy. Like, my desire, because I can create a character in a game and be a god in a game and be really awesome. I need to find a way to do that in real life. So, like, that's one of my major weaknesses. I grew up doing it every single day of my life. So, it's like an alcoholic. Like, you don't take them at a bar. Like, they probably have the self-control, but it's just cruel.
Gotcha.
So I'm not doing that to myself, you know?
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking about that while you were talking about it, because I'm like, I have enough money to buy most of a Jeep. By the end of summer, I'll probably have enough where I could easily take a year off, as long as I'm frugal and, you know, don't waste money or anything.
Exactly.
The main thing that's holding me back is health insurance.
It's a risk. Yeah. I mean, think about your lifestyle. Health insurance, like I like health insurance is super important, but if you don't take risk, if you just like shift like your eating habits so you're not going to have any major like internal health issues for a year, and you just kind of you work out moderately and you don't take any huge risks, aside from like a car accident, what would actually happen to you that would cause you?
My dad's appendix. He had to have his appendix removed this week.
Yeah, he's
something
also
like
60.
that. Yeah, it doesn't really, the age doesn't really affect it though. Like there was a girl I went to high
and
school.
you can go to the private market too. See, but this is something else too. Very valid concern. Health insurance in general, like car, like I'll have bills. I'm sure there's gonna be some unforeseen bill. So one of two ways you handle it: you set aside an extra $10,000 for an issue, or what arbitrary number, $20,000, whatever.
Yeah.
So that means instead of quitting in a year, you quit in a year and a half. Like you figure out when you can, or you shop in the private sector and find insurance you can afford. There's some options where like you pay in $50 a month. They don't cover a tooth cleaning, but they'll cover a root canal. And because you've been paying $50, it's like a co-opted. You know, there's ways around it. But the point is, if you want something, we live in the age of information and the age of technology. Unless you're burdened with outrageous debt or you have over obligated yourself to other people, there's almost nothing that you can't do here in America. Like you actually are positioned really well for something like if you wanted to try that and like I'm gonna do a podcast for a full year as my full-time job, you're paying yourself $35,000 or however much you need to survive plus what you want, you know, in addition to. Like that's the way you look at it. It's like I hated the idea that I was working to pay bills for shit that I didn't care about. So I'm like, okay, well then I'll get rid of the shit I don't care about, and instead of working to pay bills, I'll just not work and I'm paying myself. You know, and obviously I have my wife had to, like, we talked through it, and once she understood what I was getting at, you know, she's like, a year? And like I give myself a timeline and expectations too, like we'll try it for a year. I'm not saying forever. It's not that I don't want to work, I just want to give it a go. You know, I'm gonna shoot my shot. I'm almost 30. I'm gonna try it. It doesn't work, I go back to work and be normal again. But at least I tried. Yeah. Because the truth is, I've always wanted to write, and I've always wanted to like have my artwork in like in a gallery, and I've developed a huge passion for gardening. I would love to like help someone else learn how to do that, and I have to do those things because if I become like my dad's age, 62, failing health, worked a job I hated and never went for it, it just destroy me. You know, I don't want to be that old guy flipping burgers because I didn't do anything on myself. Yeah. So I'm worth $35,000. I'm worth a lot more than that, but I'm at least worth that. So I'll take my salary away, and you know, all the stuff I bought when I was working out, I'm not buying new stuff. Like it's like I bought 3 pairs of clothes, and I bought a shitty desk that I'm refurbishing, and that's what I'm working with now. I've changed my desire from material possessions to being comfortable with what I already have, working with it, and just relishing in the time that I have purchased for myself. It's intuitive too, because like I said, I played games for 2 hours yesterday, or 3 hours yesterday morning. And like I don't regret it. Like I did enjoy it, and I did need it because I had been up with the dog for like 2 days straight. But like, could have done a lot better, man. That was not worth my time. Like, and I feel it in a different way than I had before. So.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective where it's like you're paying yourself. Because if you're paying yourself to play video games, that's not a good investment.
When you think about it that way, I don't need to play video games to check out of life anymore. In fact, I bought my life back. Now I'm wasting my life playing video games. And that's a total flip in perspective.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think because for me it's easier to justify it because I'm not paying myself. Like I have a job, and then on the side I have this thing going. Yeah. And other hobbies and stuff. But that perspective is like, oh man, it's like.
Well, and it makes me an asshole too, though, because I'm really protective of my time now. Like outside of slipping up, because I'm not perfect. I'm gonna slip up. I'm shooting for progress, not perfection. I'm shooting for 80% out of 100. In fact, I always say 80-20 rule. That's what I live by. 80% good, 20% fuck off. So I do 6 days a week, heavy regiment. Sundays, I don't have shit planned, and don't ask me. Like, I'll do this or whatever. But like if like your parents asked us to go to dinner, I might actually be like, yeah, I'm good. It's my day off. I'm not doing shit. I'm not going to feel bad about it because I did 80% really good. 20% is just for me. You know? But yeah, it's when you start thinking about it that way.
Real quick, I really appreciate you meeting up on a Sunday then.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
I enjoy this. That's what I said. I'm on board if you want to be on board. But yeah, and then like another way I think about it too is I think about it like I have 365 days to make it happen. I don't have that anymore. I have 342 days now or whatever. So now every day is ticking away. Yeah. It's easy to like forget like your life is actually pretty short, but you're in the middle of living it, so you don't realize that. But now that I have like when that calendar is empty, my time's done. Yeah. I'm not saying like I'm gonna die, but like my opportunity is gone, and I know it. Not necessarily, but I do feel that way. Like it's gone, so I better get it done. And when I slip up, I better work twice as hard the following day. And it's for me, not for anyone else. And with my family and my wife, like if I succeed, that means we all succeed. If I fail, it means I just go back to what everyone else is doing. At the end of the day, I'm right back in the rat race anyway.
Well, yeah, and even if you spend a year doing this and you quote unquote fail, as you said, I don't see you being the same person going into this as you are coming out.
No, absolutely not. There's no way to lose. Not really. Even if a bad circumstance happens, you just work it into your life. I'll just work with it if something bad were to really happen. But in the grand scheme, 1 year of my life, the odds of something really bad happening, considering I'm not taking any major risks, I'm probably going to be okay. I'll take that risk. It's worth it. Yeah. So, yeah, like food for thought. I'm not saying go quit your job, but to be envious of what I'm doing, it actually is probably within your reality. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe 2022.
Yeah.
You spend the next 8 months posturing yourself to do something like this and go for the podcast. Save up a bunch of money, squirrel away, and be very vicious with your money. Don't buy that $2 taco. Put that $2 in savings. That's gonna, pay a portion of your rent. Like, start thinking that way, and spend a whole year just podcasting, traveling around. Podcast, maybe, who knows? Maybe you podcast and you start taking pictures again and realize you just want to do that for fun. And you reinvigorate your passion.
Yeah.
Because it's yours again. You enjoy it.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a good compromise in the meantime would be developing a better work-life balance.
Yeah.
Because, 50 hours is about average for me. And I have weeks where it's 60. And it's like, I got hired, and it was the busy season for us because that's summer.
And you were told it'll slow down in the winter. And it hasn't.
Yeah, no, it has. Because I remember, because it didn't start raining until November. And so our busy season lasted all the way through October.
Yeah.
And then November happened, and we had a couple techs that got COVID, and so they dropped out.
And I quit.
And we're contractually obligated to finish those stops. So I just had extra route on me.
Yeah.
And then December we had somebody got fired, you quit, and I think one or two other people quit.
Yeah.
So now we're behind again. And then January hit, and it's just still been pretty busy. Like, we had the snowstorm that caused a bunch of delays.
Yeah.
And here it is, like, I was going to launch this thing end of the year because it was going to slow down in, like, October. I was going to just pump all this out, and we'd be good to go by December. And I'm still working 10-hour days through January, and I'm like, dude, spring's right around the corner. Like,
and it's going to get busier.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about what would it look like if I punched in, I did what I could for 8 hours, and after 8 hours, if I don't get to all my stops, I don't get to all my stops.
I don't know with your current manager. When I was working with our previous boss, that's what I did. Mm-hmm. I mean, when the first year and a half I worked there, I was working as much as possible making bank, and then once I got married and my wife, Jenna, your sister, whatever, however I should address her, the love of my life was like, hey, I wish you would just hang out with me instead of going. Like, okay, I'll work 8 hours. It's fair to the company. It's what I agreed to. Mm-hmm. In earnest, do as much as you can in 8 hours. Mm-hmm. Work your one Saturday and call it good. Yeah, that would be the compromise. You take back that extra couple hours you're working for him, and then pay yourself every Sunday. You commit to working for yourself. And that gives you a Saturday, three Saturdays a month to check out and play games, and then Sunday you go back to work, but it's yourself.
Yeah, well, that's
give yourself 8 hours of your own time, but like do it for yourself. Do the podcast or record or whatever. Go take some photos or like whatever reinvigorates the passion. Mm-hmm. Because if like you're like a furnace, you talked about like not really having the energy because you're working a lot, and then you get in this habit of like you play games and then you feel bad, and then it's harder to actually get out of that because you feel bad and it's easier to numb. It's like if you have a furnace, the time you spend playing those games, drinking those beers, and that junk food, you're putting damp wood in there. You're creating a bunch of smoke. It looks like you're doing a lot, or at least you're feeling it, but those logs aren't burning right, So it's like, get your fire going again. Take a Sunday for yourself.
Yeah. Well, if I only work 8 hours, the difference between 8 hours and 10, 11 hours, I'm a different person.
It's a huge difference.
If I work 10 hours, I'm done. Like, I have zero creative capacity left. I might have the energy to like meal prep or do laundry.
Yeah.
If I had a caffeine pill that day and an energy drink.
Yeah.
But then I don't sleep good that night. So, and like 10 hours is my average. Uh-huh. Sometimes I don't have that. It's like the end of the month, maybe not. But a lot of my days are, 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if I only work 8 hours, maybe I could crank out an hour a night on the podcast or whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say do something that would work for you where you're doing something for yourself at least a little bit every day. Even if it's 20 minutes. And just be grateful for the 20 minutes you get, If you do, 20 minutes every single 5 days a week, so work days, 20 minutes at the end of the day, it's almost, 2 hours? Or an hour and a quarter? I mean...
Well, I started doing that. I wrote on my board, actually, 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That was actually the number that I used, because I'm like, even if I work 10 hours a day, I can do 20 minutes. Yeah. Honestly, sometimes I can't. I'll open my thing and I'll get 5 minutes in and I'm just done. Yeah. So I close it up. But a lot of times, even if I work, 8 or 9 hours or so, I get home and I'm like, I don't want to work. But I pop open the thing and 20 minutes later, I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
And so my alarm goes off saying I can stop, and I just hit stop, and I just go for another 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I get an
Get
hour
that
out.
flow state. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that. I ended up erasing that when I put this down. I shouldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you think about it, it's always an improvement to do something for yourself, something productive for yourself, first of all, not just playing the games. But understanding that you're not a tyrant to yourself and you're not a boss to yourself, you're an employee of yourself. So people tend to make these huge, grandiose lists, which is what I did. I'm just going about it differently. You know, I made a huge list for myself, but I'm working for myself. I'm not my own boss. So, you know, I'm not doing anything I don't want to do either. That's the whole other point too. Like, I'm doing what I'm responsible for to my wife, but outside of that, I'm doing exactly what I want to do every day. I'm not even kidding myself with it.
Yeah.
And then I spent December learning how to meditate and feel like understand how I'm feeling and when I'm feeling it. And I've learned that I can only do about 2 hours of real work at any given point at a time. I can't sit for 6 hours at a desk and write. I can't even do 2 hours. That's my goal. I can do about 45 minutes at a time before I have to take a 10-minute break. So for 45 minutes, phone's off, no distractions. I have wordless music in the background on my computer, 45 minutes. And then I have to stop for about 15 or 20, put like a video on, or I'll read something else, or I'll browse my phone for a second just to kind of check out and then go back into it. You know, and I found like a habitual thing that I do before I start writing. It's an instant. So in the morning, click this bad boy on, plug my phone in, put on, I have like a station I listen to that's just background soft music. I light that instant, the match, and just that feeling. It's like 3 a.m. It's all dim in here. Like, obviously the ambiance is it's only one of these lights on there, not all of them.
Yeah.
And I hit that match, and that spark is like, that's it. It's like igniting my creativity for that moment. And one of those instants lasts about 45 minutes, so it worked out really perfect. By the time that thing's burnt out, so am I. It's like, it's weird how all that kind of comes together. But when you start like taking awareness of yourself, this is gonna sound so hippie, but like the universe sometimes like kind of does speak to you a little bit. Like, it's just strange, but yeah.
That does sound fucking hippie.
Yeah, it's true though. Like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
I didn't believe a lot of that stuff, but I'm starting to kind of feel there's something to it. I'm not diehard about it, but I do find it interesting.
Well, for me, a lot of what tranquility means is having being rooted in like routine. And so I have a clock into work routine. I have a clock out from work routine.
Yep.
So lighting that incense, especially when it's revolved around a smell, because there's something about smells that really, really just orients you. Like there's like memories that are attached to smell. You can smell something and it brings you right back to a memory you haven't thought about in 15 years. So I really like that, the lighting the incense with the smell and the.
Yeah, I know, and it's got like a meaning, like igniting that match is like the spark, and when the incense burns out, it's like, but it was so funny because I actually just realized this about 4 days ago. It just correlated perfectly. I'm like, see, that's programming. What you call routine, I call programming. I'm just programming myself to do exactly what I want myself to do. You know, that's what I'm working on this year.
Very cool.
Working on myself, a whole lot of it.
So this didn't go exactly as planned.
No. What's your time like today?
Wide open.
Okay.
I gotta work at 8. Well, my fucking truck battery died again.
Really?
Yeah. I started it.
Had you take it to the shop yet?
No, they told me to, and I didn't because
you have to find the time.
Yeah, I was up in Dunsmuir the last 2 days, prepping for the snowstorm, and then Wednesday I was in town and we had a snowstorm, and then Thursday I just forgot about it, and then Friday we had the end of month meeting, and then I only had 3 stops on me, and I woke up and I was just not feeling it. I was so over it, just working in the snow all week, and. So I like did that and did my 3 stops, and then I got home and then realized, oh crap, I forgot to get the battery. I'll do it on Monday.
Yeah,
I'll just start my truck on Saturday and Sunday, run it for 5 minutes, you'll be good to go. So I did that on Saturday, fired right up, ran it for 5 minutes. I'm like, all right.
This morning you didn't.
This morning it was and it like turns over a bit, and then I tried again, and I tried it, so I'm like, oh, I'll just jump it again. It's fine. Little stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out. So I'm trying to cultivate self-discipline in my life. And for me, the first part of that is, so a lot of that is like checking out less. So like playing less video games. So I'm trying to figure out what the on-ramp to that is. And for me, a lot of times it's frustration or like anger, I guess. Anger's not a... Yeah, I'd say anger. And frustration is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Because like something will happen at work.
Irritation, frustration.
Yeah, something will happen at work that's pointless or avoidable, or it's just bureaucracy, and I get frustrated with it, and I'm just like, this wasted an hour of my day. So my 8.5 hour day turned into a 9.5 hour day, and like being frustrated saps my creativity, and it makes me want to check out.
Yeah,
so
I can relate. That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah,
it was a lack of control and a waste of my time.
Yeah, exactly.
So exactly what I did. I went the polar opposite. I control my time and I don't waste it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% understand.
I've had a lot of that this month. It's been an adjustment month. So I've been trying to find better ways of like dealing with being frustrated. And a lot of it is like looking at it from a different perspective. Because like something bad will happen at work and it wastes my time for an hour, hour and a half. It's like, okay, there's different ways of looking at this. First of all, it was a waste of time, but it wasn't like extremely difficult or hard or challenging. It didn't suck my, aside from the fact that I'm frustrated, it didn't suck my creative energy. And I'm paid by the hour, so that's all overtime.
Yeah.
So it's money in my pocket.
It's all in.
And it's not like it was grueling, so it's like, okay, if I can reorient myself and look at this like hour and a half of my time.
Easy money. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get home at 6 instead of 4:30. It's not ideal, but this is where we're at, and I can either get frustrated with it, or I can just be like, all right, I'm starting my creative work at 6 instead of 4:30.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to reorient the way I deal. God, and alcohol is a good chat. It's a coping mechanism for me when I'm angry too. Because I'll have a drink and I'm good. Like I don't give a shit anymore. It's like
it's the second drink and the third drink and the fourth drink and the fifth drink.
Yeah, well, I usually don't go that far, but
I definitely do.
Yeah, if I get to, I can have a beer. I'm good. I can have a couple beers and I'm good. If I have that third beer, then it's like, I don't know if 3 beers is enough. Like 2 beers is enough. 3 beers might not be. But yeah, so I've been trying to develop better coping mechanisms for being frustrated. And a lot of it is just like reorienting myself, because a lot of it is rooted in pride, honestly. Where it's like, I'm like, how dare they waste my time like that? This is stupid. And a lot of times it's like, I mean, when you have a big company that's running, like shit just happens. Like there's unavoidable mistakes, and sometimes it is avoidable. But even then, it's like, well, this is life. This is the way it is.
Yeah.
Like, you can quit your job and find another one, or you can just accept that this job has things about it that you don't like, and you just continue on.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere close to quitting. Yeah, I'm nowhere close to quitting. But like that's the alternative. So it's like I have quitting, which is like this extreme option, or this little tiny option, which is super easy, and it's just accept it and deal with it, and it's fine. So yeah, figuring out what my on ramps to gluttony and sloth and lust or whatever.
Yeah.
Figuring out what those are and cutting those off ramps off, or if I see myself on that on ramp, attach it to a different freeway.
Yeah, I literally understand exactly what you're talking about, because that's been my process for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going through, my friend. Yeah, and it's so fucking hard. It is so hard to do what you need to do to be happy. Or at least it was for me. When it sounds so silly, because you know exactly usually what it is, or you at least have an idea of what it should be, and it's just, come on, stupid, why aren't you doing it? Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-improvement's hard.
Yeah, I think self-discipline isn't something that... it's something that most people don't have to cultivate as much as they used to have to a couple hundred years ago. Like, we live in a very, like, instant gratification or type of culture, I guess. Where it's like we have microwaves and we have, Wi-Fi that's fast enough that it loads the YouTube video right away.
Yeah.
And it's
How often have you been mad because your web page doesn't load instantly?
Every
it's
time.
like, that shit's going to space, man. Come on, give it a chance.
Yeah. So I think because of that, like, people used to actually have to have patience, and it wasn't an option because they had, letters delivered by horse. It's like you don't get to have the instant thing when you have that. So it's like people were forced to develop, patience, and I think they were forced to develop discipline because you can't I could eat out every single day if I wanted to. I could have Taco Bell every day if I wanted to. There's no one stopping me except myself. And it's like, that wasn't an option back in the day. Like, you had to go out and hunt, or you had to go out and plow the fields, or else you would die.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think self-discipline is very atrophied in, like, probably the average first world person.
Yeah, and it's definitely not valued. Yeah, in fact, I would say that some people actually did the exact opposite. Like, it's not really useful. Why would you wait if you can just get it for free or instantly? Or it's like, I don't go to the library anymore, but when I was in Ohio, I lived pretty close. I'd go to the library to look up something in the book. Not because I didn't know how to use the internet, but there's value in knowing how to seek knowledge. Like, I don't want to say hand to mouth, but like, you know, like physically doing it versus just search and go.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm starting from the ground floor as far as self-discipline goes.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm making progress. And in a year, I'm pretty excited for what that's going to look like.
Yep. Yeah, I personally found something that grounded me. And so you find that anchor point, you stick to it.
What's that anchor point for you?
I have my time chunk set out already, and then it's letting that in set. It anchors me to that moment, to, you know, my duration of commitment to writing or drawing, whatever my task is. I go through a lot of them, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But when I sit for my 2-hour chunk, it's like last month, it was a lot of writing oriented because I wanted to position myself to have my projects like started really well. It'll be different this month. I don't know yet what it will be because I'm focused more on physical health and mental health. Physical health, mental clarity is what I'm going for. So I'll figure that out. It might be my cup of tea or my supplement, or I don't know, but it'll probably be sitting at the table with something in front of me first thing in the morning and directly after like my afternoon nap. But I haven't decided what it is yet. Anyway, do you want to get into what we were originally going to talk about?
Yeah. So
hey, today's podcast is supposed to be about us and ourselves.